What's up, folks? Sean, the average angler, and this is a good one near and dear to my heart. As you know, I absolutely love jig fishing. This time around, we're going to do a little bit different. January, as I've mentioned several times recently, that full moon in January is a big turning point for the bass and their seasonal patterns. It's the time when I caught my largest bass on a topwater, actually, at night from the shore. Anyway, it was a giant, 12 and a half pounds. I've caught two 12/8s. The other one was on a jig. Very simple green pumpkin jig, 1/2 ounce on the Delta in the middle of June. Jigs work year round. Where you fish them, which ones you fish, how you fish them, vary from month to month, maybe more season to season, if you will. January is the time where I believe is one of the best times to learn, depending on where you're at. Obviously, if your lake's frozen over, probably not the best time. But for those of us in the middle of the country down, now is a great time because the days are getting longer. Don't know that it's necessarily getting warmer, but we will have some warming afternoons. Here where I live, we have some warm storms. They just lead to those big females getting the signal that, hey, it's time for us to start preparing for the spawn. They can't do it overnight, so they need some time, and jigs replicate a crawdad, which is a great source of protein for their egg development. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button down below. It's free. We have goals. Once again, I keep it pretty simple, right? Brown, purple, little another shade of brown, if you will there, brownish orange. That one is a Johnny C's Pro Guide jig. Here's another lighter shade. Still the same base color. Then the only other real color change I'm going to do that's different is going to be black and blue. Now, later on in the video, I'm going to give you a little piece of black and blue juice, kind of giving something up. Typically, I'm going to throw this when there's some stain to the water with the storms, winter storms. We got creek flows, that kind of thing. It can dirty up our water, and at that point in time, you definitely need to, if you're going to throw green pumpkin, throw some with some purple in it, or go to that black and blue. Now, this is a dirty jigs, 1/2 ounce football head. Dirty jig makes really good jigs. The hook's good, the weed guard's good. This one needs to be trimmed a little bit. The head's good, the line tie, and the hook keeper is good and does what it's supposed to. The only thing I don't like about a dirty jigs is that it is not hand tied. You can see right there, there's a rubber band. Now the downside of the rubber band is if you have a jig box and you got a box full of jigs, just like spinner baits, just like buzz baits, those rubber bands will dry out and they'll break. Okay, that's what I don't like about them. Now, I got these on sale, but typically the price of this is more expensive than this Johnny C hand-tied jig or the Bass Union hand-tied jig, okay? That's my only knock on dirty jigs. Otherwise, they make a good jig. This needs to be trimmed up a little bit. For me, I like to trim them up, all right? So as far as trailers go, again, we're going to keep it simple. My number one trailer in the winter is that Yamamoto twin tail, and I've got one rigged up right here. That's a Yamamoto 330 is the color. It's just a green pumpkin with purple and gold flake. And that jig there, you remember back from one of my videos not too long ago, that Berkeley Finesse jig, and it's called, well, this one's black, brown, amber. I believe the other one's watermelon candy, which I like a lot in clear water, few feet visibility. That takes care of the jig and the trailer. So now we have a jig and trailer. We need something to tie it to. First of all, majority of the time this time of year, I'm going to go with my 12-pound Sunline FC Sniper. Not sponsored by them. I love Sunline. I use it on almost everything. And I'm going to throw it on that Irod IRA 753. It's just a medium heavy, has a pretty soft tip, 7'5". The line rating on there, 10 to 18 pound test. I'm throwing 12 and it says 1/4 to 3/4. Okay, I'm throwing 1/2 ounce. So I'm right in the wheelhouse of that. It's got a nice tip to it, comes into some really good backbone. The tip is great for a couple things. 1, for casting, 2, for feel, and 3, it helps me walk it through rocks. Whereas too stiff of a rod, I'm not feeling it slide down into a crevice soon enough for me to just pop it out and continue fishing my cast. A lot of times with too stiff a rod, you get hung up. This time of year, the fish are not as strong. It's cold. They're not exerting the same amount of energy when you do hook them and fight them. And in this time, we are also, most of the time, fishing out in open water. So fighting the fish is not an issue. The feel's a little bit better. There's less line in the water for the fish to sense. It's just an all-around better package to get bit, and we don't really need more to fight the fish to the boat. 12 to 15 pound. If you need to go a little heavier, go a little heavier. I don't, 12 pound is really, really good unless you're flipping into cover, and then that's a completely different story. I'm not talking about flipping today. So how am I going to fish this jig? One of two ways. One is just the slide and pause, okay? Slow, slide about a foot and pause. Slide, pause. Every once in a while, we're talking every 7, 8 slides, I'm going to just put a little shake into that jig. Now, if you're fishing these in an area that you should be, which means rock, and we'll get more into that, every once in a while you're going to hang up, you're going to have to pop that rod a little bit to get it to kind of come up over a blunt edge and continue. That leads us into technique number 2, which generally I'm going to do when I'm walking a bait down rock, and that's I'm going to pop it up and let it settle. Pop it up, let it settle. You can do a pop. Just remember, you don't want to move that bait 8 feet up into the air and then have it fall. We're talking about a little scurry up and drop. Doesn't need to be a lot. Again, that's why we like a rod that gives us good feel. So where are we going to fish this? Well, there's a slew of places to look, but one thing in common with all of them, okay? Points, ledges, creek channel bends, and rock piles. The last one kind of gave it up. Rock is imperative for jig fishing or pretty much any fishing during the winter. Bass love rock. Warms up better than just dirt. It also holds food, forage, whether it be algae, bringing in the bait fish, or crawdads. Rocks are a great place for fish to eat. I always want hard bottom, almost year round, but really this time of year and when fishing a jig, I want to feel that jig bumping into things. Think of spawning area, because this is where we want to look. Put yourself in April and where are your fish spawning, and then move out from there and find yourself drop-offs, ledges, points, creek channel bends, anything that those fish are going to use for a highway. And those 4 things are what I'm looking for as I come out, okay? Hopefully looking from 12 foot to 15, down to 25, depending on your lake. For largemouth, I've found that's kind of the happy median in there between that 12 and 25. They will go deeper if the bait's down there, but there's almost always areas of your lake where that kind of cover or structure is available for the fish, and they will hang on it. Points, a lot of times, they're using more as an up and down to feed. So they may be somewhere out off of those points, and at certain times of the day, they're going to pull up and come up and eat and then go back down. This is why I've told you if you want to fish points, and one of the simplest ways to get confidence is to go run point. But just keep circling through them. You don't get bit the first time. The structure feels right on those points. Come back and hit them again and again and again. We are trying to intercept a group of fish moving up to feed. Don't sit there and wait them out, because you might have 2 times throughout the day where they're going to be there. Keep moving around, try and run into some. Your odds are better. I think you're going to catch more fish. Before I get into best times to get out and fish the jig, meaning times of day, days of the month, those kinds of things, I am going to do a giveaway. I'm going to give away 4 jigs. I'll throw some trailers in there to the winner, and it'll be a random drawing, so leave a comment down below. Your biggest jig fish. If you haven't caught a jig fish, then put down in the comments that you want to learn to jig fish. We'll do a little random drawing. I will get your info, we'll send it out, and you will be all set. All you need is your own rod, reel, and line to tie it onto, and you are going to be good to go. All right, best times to get out and fish. Number 1, that full moon in January. 3 days prior until 3 days after. So we got a 3-day stretch, or call it a week, where I have found those big girls start to move and become susceptible to eating a jig. I believe they're being signaled by Mother Nature that it's time to start getting ready to spawn. It takes time for those eggs to mature. They need high protein meals, and crustaceans or crawdads are a high protein meal. A few minutes ago, warm storms. Warm storms are a great time to get out because those upper levels of the water column will warm up. It also tends to bring in some color to the water, and our bass feel safe in that shallower, warmer water. When there's a mud line, they will get up in it and use it. Also, overnight temps. Maybe they've been dipping into the 30s, 20s every night, and hey, last night it didn't crack below 52, okay? We just had one of them. During the day, 64, something like that. Overnight only got down to 52. Those are great days to get out. First light in winter is still one of the best times of day to get bit. The downside of it is there tends to be a lull in between that time when things start to warm up in the afternoon, pulling those fish up and making them active, okay? If we're fishing deeper, we're still going to run into some fish. You don't want to miss the opportunities, okay? If you see a nice warm day coming, sun, calm conditions, hey, that might be a great time to get out. If you're close, maybe go out in the afternoon, fish the afternoon hours. I know on my local lake, the afternoon's been much more productive than early. Of course, I can't get on at first light. They don't open until 8 o'clock. All right, so I think that's what you need to go out and get bit and get some confidence in jig fishing. Now, there is the Kitech, and there's some other ones too, little finesse jigs. And I have nothing against those finesse jigs. I just find that this is one of those Johnny C's, right, that I've trimmed up. That's pretty compact. It's not a very long jig, okay? That's probably 3 inches, 3.5 inches long with the trailer. Not real big. Okay, most of the time I can get bit on this, and I do mean most. The same thing with this jig, I would trim up some to the back of the hook there, butcher up the skirt a little bit so it's a little bit more open, if you will, and go out there and get you some. Now, the Kitech, if you're on a spotted bass lake, first of all, spotted bass are going to eat the snot out of this one, okay? They are not shy. But that Kitech can be very, very good at times, and you don't need to put a whole lot of a trailer on there. You can use a little short, like Ned Bomb, the Finesse TRD, or you can use some of the small TRD trailers. They have little craw trailers. Still, a lot of times we'll use a 4-inch twin tail, but the one I use the most, I believe, is a Baby Rage craw, and I just trim it down, okay? I trim the body down so it's nice and short and compact. Gets bit really, really well. So if you're on a spotted bass fishery, I really think you get bit with that, okay? Joseph Orozco from Bass Union has recent videos out where he's catching them on his jig. It's the same size as this. The links will be in the description. As always, if you have questions, please drop them below. If you want in the drawing for the 4 jigs, and we can go over colors if your area is different, but otherwise I'll pick the ones that I would use, and we will go from there. Drop the comment down below, like, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.